This is the Free Libya podcast.
It's Sunday, July 24th, 2011, and you're listening to the Free Libya podcast.
Welcome to the third installment of our series. We're switching gears this time and taking a look at the near future of Libya, in part one of our Special Perspective series.
Resolution, reunion, restoration, to reestablish relations and rebuild. All of these pronouncements point to reconciliation, the process by which divergent groups are able to find a way to overcome their differences and bring reparative justice against those who cause suffering upon the innocent.
For Libyans dying for freedom, reconciliation feels like both a distant dream and inevitable reality. As the Gaddafi regime continues to exist in its own bizarre TV show of blatant lies, coercion, and suppressive violence, it's clear that those who support the regime aren't going to simply disappear once Tripoli and the rest of the country is completely liberated.
It's also clear that Gaddafi's days are numbered, and time is ticking for his inevitable downfall. But what's coming up might get even messier. With victory for the opposition on the horizon, big questions are going to need bigger answers.
What do we do with those who cheered on as entire cities were razed by Gaddafi's Katiba regiments?
Do we bring justice against those who claim to have been forced to commit their crimes?
How will we be able to embrace people who supported the regime and condone the raping of our sisters, murder of our children, hanging of our uncles, and bombing of our homes?
Can we trust those who made millions in the past by immoral acts in collaboration with the regime?
Will we be able to create a firm foundation for freedom and democracy with such people in our midst?
Can we forgive what we cannot forget?
And if we can forgive, should we?
These questions indicate a huge gap created by the violence that seems an absolute impossibility for many to bridge. Those who lost their loved ones and their innocence to Gaddafi loyalists will carry an immense burden for the remainder of their lives.
Those who supported the regime will definitely be plagued by their choice for years to come. Families on both sides of the conflict will have to find some way to live together.
Everyone in Libya is affected.
We got in touch with Ibn Thabit and put forth the question, what are your thoughts on reconciliation? As a rap artist, Ibn Thabit has been fighting Gaddafi since 2008 using his voice.
معروفين الليبيين احفاد الشهداء لكن بعد اللي شهدناه قولوا بلاد الشهداء.
He also uses his music to inspire and bring the Libyan people together.
Here's what Ibn Thabit had to say.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أولا بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وحبيبنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم أشرف المرسلين. أما بعد, I really appreciate this opportunity to come on and speak about this subject, the subject which is how to deal with the former elements of the Gaddafi regime after Gaddafi falls. It's important that we discuss this now because there is the potential after Gaddafi falls that things might become quite chaotic. Revenge could become widespread. Let me just start out by saying, first of all, I'm not, a scholar on any subject actually, and certainly not Islam. I'm not a sheikh. I'm not a teacher. It just so happens that in the age that we're living in right now, a lot of times people would rather listen to artists than they would shuyukh or scholars or people of knowledge. Or even their parents. I might be able to make a positive impression on youth, on Libyan youth. Maybe they want to listen to me instead of somebody who is a lot more knowledgeable than myself. I want to start out by reciting an ayah of the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Nahl, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وإن عاقبتم فعاقبوا بمثل ما عوقبتم به ولئن صبرتم لهو خير للصابرين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, if you were punished, or if you have been punished, punish the way that you were punished. And if you are patient, it is better for those who are patient. The reason why I'm bringing up this ayah is to remind everybody who has been hurt, and all Libyans have been hurt by the Gaddafi regime. It's a reminder that even though it is your right to take revenge on somebody who has harmed you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to be patient. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the all-knowing. And this is in the Quran. There's no dispute about what this ayah is or what it means. And the reason why I want to start with this ayah is because as soon as Gaddafi is done, a lot of people, including myself, you know the people that were part of the regime, and it is very tempting to go out there and get revenge. It is for myself. I confess that. However, I urge everybody out of love or out of patriotism or out of iman to consider this, because if everybody goes out there and tries to take the law into their own hands and get revenge, you will make mistakes. Somebody out there is going to make a mistake. That's one thing. You might get the wrong person. You might get misinformation. You might rush into something. You might end up hurting somebody or killing somebody that you didn't mean to or that you shouldn't have. That's on one plane. On another plane, a lot of these people that are part of the regime have hurt many people. In order for everybody to get their piece of justice, we have to allow the courts and the judges and the lawyers. And there are honest judges and lawyers in Libya, starting with Mustafa Abdel. I happen to know a lot of lawyers that even in the time of the Gaddafi regime, I'm sure that if everybody can keep their calm and be patient and let the courts do their thing when Gaddafi is gone, then we'll have a better outcome. Revenge, like I was trying to say earlier, leads to more revenge. It'll lead to chaos eventually. And we don't want to live in an environment. Nobody wants to live in an environment where murder is normal up the street. We don't want to create that kind of environment. So truly the best way to deal with things, inshallah, is to have patience. And even if you don't get your justice for dunya, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the just, and you will get your justice for the akhirah. But let's not lose sight of also the positive effects in the dunya, and that is that if you're not out there killing people, that means you're not adding to these numbers and the lust for revenge, and creating this vengeful environment. You're helping create a better and safer Libya, and especially if you're looking forward to the rule of law in Libya. I think it's going to be one of the hardest things is for people to control themselves from trying to seek revenge. And I think that's all I have to say about the subject. So once again, Jazakumullahu khair. This has been Ibn Thabit on the Free Libya podcast. Assalamu alaikum.
طرابلس عاصمتنا تنادي فينا.
In Tripoli, under the grip of Gaddafi's severely suffocating grasp, one woman tells FLP what her thoughts are about reconciliation.
يا رب.
If you look up reconcile in the dictionary, you will find that it means to restore friendship or harmony, to settle or resolve differences. Can I, as a Libyan citizen, settle or resolve my differences with people who are, up to this date, still with the regime and claim that they would die for Gaddafi? Won't there be a piece of me that will always hate anyone who was loyal to his regime, even those who are no longer with him? These are complicated questions. At least for me they are. In theory, national reconciliation is a very noble thing to accomplish, but somewhat platonic in essence, especially when asking at this stage, where Libya is still fighting for its freedom. A lot of the Libyan people will seek revenge for what Gaddafi has inflicted upon them, not saying that this is the right thing to do, nor do I encourage it. But we have to face the fact that whether we like it or not, some people will act on their untamed primal instinct to make sure that they take an eye for an eye. Even when justice is served through legal institutions, it'll be very hard to ask mothers to stop hating those who killed their sons and husbands in the Abu Slim massacre, or for fathers to forgive Gaddafi's soldiers who raped their daughters and stole their innocence forever. Don't get me wrong, I have a lot of faith in the new Libya, but I think it's a matter of trust that I'll be facing with the new vision. Until I see concrete evidence of the promised change, a part of me will remain a skeptic. That's what 42 years of Gaddafi does to you. Plus, I'm a female and we do have a tendency to hold a grudge. I personally think that national reconciliation will need time for people to start believing that it can happen. I'm one of those people. Ask me in a year, when my Libya is free and has nursed its wounds. Maybe then I'll have a more optimistic view on the subject. Thank you.
We hope that our listeners consider the Libyan perspective shared today and that they will inspire conversation in your families and communities relating to reconciliation. FLP wishes to extend its shared condolences with all Libyan families touched by lost innocence in life.
إِنَّ لِلَيْهِ وَإِنَّ إِلَيْهِ راجعون.
We belong to God, and to God we return. The end of the regime is fast approaching, and justice will be the air underneath freedom's wings.
ربي يتقبل شهدانا وربي ينصر بلادنا. معروفين الليبيين احفاد الشهداء، لكن بعد اللي شهدناه قولوا بلاد الشهداء. دماء الشهداء شفتوه على الشاشات، وشبابنا واقفين قدام الرشاشات من غير خوف مهما كان الموت. اكيد كانوا كل واحد فيهم يبي يموت شهيد، مش غير باش ينتقموا من المجرم العقيد. ما هو يشوف الشهداء كل واحد فيهم سعيد. سبحان الله، ربك يرزق من يشاء بالشهادة ويصبر العباد في البأساء. بلادنا والله معبية بالتريس ودماء ولادنا والله ما هو رخيص. يلا يا منصب من دموع، يا منصب من دماء، يهنوا الأمهات ولادكم شهداء. يا منصب من دموع، يا منصب من دماء، يهنوا الأمهات.
This is the Free Libyan Podcast. Thank you for listening.
For more information or to leave a suggestion, visit facebook.com/flpodcast or twitter.com/flpodcast.